Opposite Weah to can George Manuel Weah pull it off again? Can the discredited footballer turned politician turned president secure a second term despite hardship and large defection of his youthful urban support base? His pivot to the interior, would that yield any fruit? Is division in the opposition enough for Weah to clinch a second term? Join me, Menipake Dumoy, as I analyze the twists and turns on the Dumoy Factor this and every weekday from 10 a.m. to
Liberia's president-elect arrives at one last ceremony before he takes the oath of office. The mood here is celebratory, but many believe it won't be for long. Mr. Weah takes over from outgoing President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, whose term expired a week ago. But the challenges she leaves behind are huge.
unemployment. It's going to be a key issue to resolve. And the conditions are not pretty. If he's unable to find his feet within the first 6 months, he will lose attention of the international development community. He will lose attention of global capital, and he will lose the interest of a largely impatient voting base.
The youth form one of Weah's biggest voting bloc in the last election, and this group is largely unskilled and impatient for change. He told us opening up the rural areas is a huge priority for now.
Our quest is for to believe in our local content, to believe in our ability to empower our people, for our ability to compete with the rest of the world. Your priorities, sir? Whether we talk about interconnected roads, all the roads are good. We can trade, we can do agriculture, we can build our infrastructure. So our roads is paramount.
But there are several unresolved issues that are equally begging for attention: education, electricity, industrialization, and national reconciliation.
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf may have stabilized post-war Liberia, but like most developing countries, it still struggles with the twin problems of corruption and underdevelopment 170 years after it was founded. When George Weah takes the oath of office as the 25th president of Liberia on these grounds, his supporters and donors who fund 60% of Liberia's budget will be watching closely to see how he discharges his responsibilities.
The first will be who he appoints into his cabinet.
Because Mr. Weah himself has been branded as inexperienced, he needs to put his best foot forward. He needs a strong minister of finance that can send a message to the local and international economic players that Liberia is capable of doing business.
George Weah is taking office months after international donors have started scaling down operations in Liberia, which means the country sees less foreign aid. But some Liberians say it's time they take their destiny in their...
Good morning and welcome to a brand new edition of the Dumoy Factor. This morning I'm focusing on the question. Indeed, this is a question on the minds of most Liberians that are concerned about the forward march of the country, about whether this post-Ellen Johnson Sirleaf era would take the country backwards or forward. It was a real risk in 2017 when Liberians chose George Manuel Weah as a way of changing the guards, of bringing new dynamism to the politics. There was a fatigue of Unity Party in 2017, and in a bid to change things, to shake up the system, Liberian voters chose the former footballer who had spent 12 years making a case for the presidency. You don't need a lecture on what the outcome has been. Economic collapse, waste of public resources, unresolved murders, disappearances, the closing of the political space, the total politicization of the judiciary, are all the consequences of that change that was made. That change that was made in 2017. George Manuel Weah didn't turn out to be the benevolent leader that understood the plight of the people, that came from the slums of Monrovia and was in touch with the struggles of the downtrodden masses, on whose back he built his political movement. This morning, I want to consider the question, what if George Manneh Weah wins in 2023? How would that affect you? Because as the opposition deals with the inherent difficulties of building a political coalition, some Liberians have started toiling with the idea of, let Weah just stay there. I want on this program this morning to spell out to you the costs of voting George Weah again back into office. Right after this. Can George Manneh Weah pull it off again? Can the discredited footballer turned politician turned president secure a second term despite hardship and large defection of his youthful urban support base? His pivot to the interior, would that yield any fruit? Is division in the opposition enough for Weah to clinch a second term? Join me, Menipake Dumoy, as I analyze the twists and turns on the Dumoy Factor this and every weekday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So yes, this morning I'm trying to draw your attention to the cost of having a Weah second term. Let's start first with the economy. What will a victory for George Weah in 2023 do to the economy? The first thing that will be hit if Weah is re-elected is the economy. The first group of people in line for serious consequence is the civil service. So most of you have realized as we move toward election, there's been some regularization of pay. Pay is sort of coming 1 month late, 2 months late, but no longer do you see the 6 months delay that was typical in the first years of Weah. What they are doing is digging hole to cover hole. What they are doing is to try and bring the civil service back on side, just to manage it. They're taking money from other parts. They're even taking money, donor money, and using it, to reach their recurrent expenditure. They are prioritizing payroll because of elections. In a post-election era, they will have to put that money back. They are borrowing from companies like Mita and other corporations to keep that money coming. They're granting concessions and doing all sorts of short-term things to keep that payroll on course just for elections. It's a 20-month gimmick. So as soon as the elections are over, the first group of people that are going to take a hit is civil servants. Pay will start to delay. There will be another round of harmonization cuts. This time around, we are sure he's not going to get reelected because the Constitution rules him out. So you'll be confident that he has nothing to fear. You will start to see more reckless spending. Inflation will go through the roofs, and they won't care. Your income, anybody that is being paid in Liberian dollars, I'm sorry for you. Your income, you will see the value of your income erode drastically. They will flood the market with this newly printed. You see, they are phasing the infusion of the Liberian dollar because they are aware of the impact of a financial crisis on the election. You see, George Weah's number one political priority is not the well-being of Liberians. His number one political priority is to keep power, to remain in that position where he has the wealth of the country at his beck and call. That through a telephone call to the Minister of Finance, he can get whatever he wants. It is that and politics is not about how he's going to improve the country and so on and so forth. So he's going to do everything possible, play by the book as much as possible, just to get over that election line, that re-election line. As soon as he gets over that re-election line, you can forget it. And so the first economic difficulty that will hit the country is high level of already now the off-budget spending, the expenditure that was now recorded that has no legal basis is over 100 million United States dollars, according to estimates of experts within the public financial management system. They ask, they challenge the Comptroller General to reconcile the figures that LRA is announcing with his figures and by extension the figures of the consolidated account. When you do that comparison, you find that over 100 million United States dollars cannot be accounted for. There will be more off-budget spending if Weah wins. Now, after paying for the campaign, they will have to take that money from somewhere. This is the salary of civil servants in 2024 onwards that's being spent now. So the first group of people that will be heavily hit by a Weah victory are those working for the civil service and those who are dependent on them. Dependents are people, students who have parents that work for the civil service, relatives and other family relations that you rely on for financial upkeep. Those people will be so heavily hit by the post-election financial adjustments that Weah and them must do to account for all the money they're going to pour into the re-election campaign. Now, ordinary Liberians can expect a lot of hard times. Those who are not connected to the civil service, who don't have a job in government, will also be hit because of the inflationary pressure that this will put on the economy. The infusion of new money that they've printed, they will start dumping that by 2024, not caring about the inflationary impact. Right now, they're afraid that if they drive up inflation and prices goes through the roof, it might have implications for their re-election. But then they will be relieved of that concern immediately after they are announced winners of the election. More cuts to civil servants' pay. I've already addressed that. Civil servants will see more irregular pay. Sometimes you go, because one of the things they do, if they delay pay, then they don't have to pay the months that are missed. By that time, you are just concerned about even getting a month or 2 month pay. They can reach settlement with you. So for every 6 months, maybe you get paid twice for those working in the civil service. And you know what that does to quality of service delivery, the quality of education, the quality of healthcare, because a doctor that is only paid twice in a year may only show up at the hospital once a year. And then you'll see more doctors starting to run their private hospitals and diverting away from the public facilities. And you will start to see more more teachers skip classes and students' grades will suffer. So if Weah wins, these are some of the things that you will face. Now, also knowing that it is his last term, that he doesn't really need anything from the people again, he will be less willing to take dissent. So people like me, people like other opposition activists and talk show hosts that bring you information about what's happening behind the curtain and that critically assess government positions, there will be a clamping down on people like us. There will be a total clamp down on people like us because, mind you, even as we head towards election, George Manuel Weah is taking control of the entire system. So if there's an electoral dispute, he has control of the Supreme Court. The police service has been turned to a partisan police force. Where are you going to run? The judges, forget it. They are under a mandate. Since the illegal removal of Kabina Jane, the judiciary has been in Weah's grip because all Supreme Court justices now are afraid of what Weah will do if they disagree or rule against his interests. The legislature, regardless of party background, most members of the legislature have sold out. And the president controls them using the purse of state. So you can't run to the legislature for relief. All these institutions are being systematically privatized by Weah and the CDC. And so if Weah wins, there will be almost no space for opposition rhetoric. The consequences on an international level, international donors and people, and especially the Americans who have concerns about the stability of Liberia under Weah and who have from time to time exposed Weah and his cronies and target them for sanctions and so on and so forth. Yesterday, there was a resolution that surfaced in Congress that proposed targeted, expanding or continuation of targeted sanctions aimed at Weah administration, at the current Liberian government. Efforts like that would be undermined by a Weah victory, because if Weah wins the election, it will be read at on the international community, at the level of the international community, that Liberians are happy. I'm not saying rig. If he rigs the election, everybody will know. But if people actually go and vote for him, then it will tell the Americans that, listen, these Liberians are enjoying the hardship, they're enjoying the poverty that is ongoing, they're enjoying the repression of the Weah administration, and therefore the opposition voice will be delegitimized. And so those of you who get vexed and go and vote out of vexation, and then when your interest is then compromised, when your house is seized or broken down and not paid for, or when you go to work for months and you are not paid, and you start calling people like us to talk for you, we will not have a voice to talk for you, because the election results said we are won. And so sometimes when you talk to people, they speak as if voting for the opposition is a favor, that if you make it too stressful, we'll not vote for you. We'll get confused. We'll confuse. There's no confusion here. Hey, there are only 3 candidates in the race. That is, if Bwaka contests, is Weah, Bwaka, and Cummins. What is confusing about that? What is confusing about that? Some people talk as though, oh, this is about Cummins, is about Bwaka. It's not about them. It's about you and what you accept. If you accept for a government to take your money and use it for the private leisures of a president, if you accept that people die and there's no accountability, if you accept that $16 billion got missing and there is no accountability up to today's date, if you accept that people can take 25 million United States dollars of this country's money and claim they're going to do mop-up exercise and that money is never heard about again, if you accept these standards, then that's how you will be governed. I listen to people across social media, and they speak casually about the possibility of a Weah re-election. And they do it as though they are providing punishment for the opposition. No, you are not punishing the opposition. The last time I checked, Cummins was a millionaire. The last time I checked, Joseph Bwaka is a prominent person who can get access to resources, whether or not he's in the presidency. In fact, this man's life is over. He's very old. Who are you hurting if you vote for Weah? Who are you hurting? Yes, the opposition came together. They could not manage to stay together. But who are you going to punish for that? Yourself? Because it is not the opposition you're going to be punishing. You're going to be punishing yourself. You're going to be sending the signal, like I listen to a Liberian music where they say, I treat you how you show me. Liberians are setting a standard for how they can be treated. There are countries where there's a one-party state, where there's a dictator that's been there for 30 years. Why is it so? That's because those people accepted it. If you don't accept dictators, they won't stand. If you don't accept bad governance, it won't stand. And so this show today, I thought to get on and have a heart-to-heart conversation with the Liberian people. And just to try to open your eyes as to the true cost of allowing a Weah victory. I told someone, I said, as much as I question Weah, as much as I question his capacity as much as I question his capacity to lead, if Joseph Newman Boakai is in the second round, I will vote for him. If Alexander Cummings is in the second round, or if Boakai does not run, you have a responsibility to vote for Cummings. No other explanation will suffice. If it comes into a head-to-head, George Manneh Weah, you can never be forgiven, and you can never forgive yourself for that. There is no circumstance whatsoever under which Weah should get a second term. Weah gets a second term, the country is finished. It is absolutely finished. No way. We should, other citizens in other countries, they don't even have a right to vote. They are under dictatorship. They don't even have a right to vote. Then I'm hearing Liberians talk about the politicians are fighting, so I'll go and vote a dummy back into office who is exploiting the country and destroying the country. What are you doing with this democratic right of yours that people fought and died for? The cost of George Manneh Weah re-election to Liberians. It's gonna be huge. Often we talk about the candidates. How is Cummings doing in relation to Boakai? How is Boakai doing in relation to George Weah? Today, I want to talk about the voter and the interest of the voter. If Liberian voters take it lightly and go to the polls and vote because they are angry, because they are disappointed, let down, because the way you imagine things to be. I told someone, if you need to go to the hospital, you do not, if you're really sick, you will not sit down and say, oh, I'm waiting for Mercedes-Benz. If I don't get Mercedes-Benz, I will not go to the hospital. What kind of sick man are you? You need Mercedes-Benz to go to the hospital? Because this system we are under, we need to be rescued from it. The only thing that will cause Weah to win is if people vote for him. And you need to make sure you're not one of those who will vote for him. There is no guarantee that Weah will win the election because the opposition are working together. His whole party not working together. They have a lot of divisions too. But most importantly, you, the voter, have to be held to account. I just went through the consequences of a Weah victory. The number one group of people who were hurt are the civil servants. And you know, we got over 60,000 civil servants or people working for government. And their relatives in Liberia just times it by 10. Because people do not take their entire salary and consume it alone. They do so with their relatives. They take on responsibilities in the family and in the community and in the church. All sectors. Civil servants will be the number one victim of a Weah victory. Because all of the money that Weah is taking right now, the money he's taking from donors, the money he's taking from other programs and borrowing from there to pay civil servants so that people can feel relaxed. And you think politics is about politicians, then you are dead wrong. Politics is too important to be left to politicians. Politics is too important to be left to politicians. And politics is not about politicians. Politics is about people. It's about voters. It's about Mam Musuda selling in the market. It's about you working in the civil service today. What will be your future? It's not about Alexander B. Cummings. If Cummings does not become president, so what? So what? He will be the first good person that wasn't elected. No, it's not about Cummings. Neither is it about Boakai. It's about you, the Liberian people, and the hardship that you will face if you go back and repeat this mistake. Oh, the people fighting, and the people don't want to come together. You don't, that is not none of your concern, really. Your real concern is to make sure that nobody lies to you and get away with it like the way George Weah has done. That nobody takes for granted you and your family, cut your salary 2-3 times, and continue to build mansions for themselves. You think this is about the voters? So unless you get to the executive mansion in CPP as a vehicle, the Liberian people need change. Whether that change is brought about by a united opposition, or is brought about by a member of the opposition winning the votes that about a united opposition winning the vote, or a single member of the opposition winning enough votes to take over the Liberian presidency, that is change. That is change. And the next president will work very hard because he will see how you treat Weah. But if you don't do it, and you allow Weah, after this sluggish performance, to go ahead and get a second term, the next president will be worse. Whoever suffers and try and come in 2029, you will teach your leaders that this is how you can be treated. That all you need to get re-elected is to make sure that the opposition is insulting each other. Nonsense. For you, the Liberian people, you have a contract with Weah, and if he hasn't delivered on that contract, there should be consequences. There should be consequences. Period. And the implication for the healthcare service provision, public service provision, the implication for the economy, the hard time that people are going through will get worse. You know, I listened to a taxi driver talk casually about the election that, you know, that the poor business, they didn't kind of get out of business. And we'll give it back to Weah. I said, you will still be riding the taxi. And you will still find it hard to make your report money. And the car owner may sell it because you come under, extreme pressure. And you lose even this taxi you ride it. How many times do we have to go through it to know that who we put in the executive mansion is very important? Whether the opposition sticks together or not, George Weah has to go. That's it. The opposition can be divided, but the Liberian people have a responsibility to pick the best out of 3. Look at the American people, the Democrats. You have like 16 or sometimes 10 Democrats running. They will narrow it down to 1 through voting. There are countries, remember, there are countries where the people don't even have the right to vote, and you do. And the consequences of a Weah victory are too dire, are too ghastly to imagine. This economy will totally collapse. Weah will sell state assets. You will go for months, possibly a year or 2 before getting paid. Because imagine if Weah has upon him the pressure of re-election and he is being sluggish and he's missing pay dates and so on and so forth. Imagine if there is no pressure. If he has a fresh 6-year term that he cannot renew as per the Constitution. If Weah gets away with everything he has done since 2018, he will do worse. Because he knows the Liberian people will accept it. He knows the Liberian people will accept it. So those civil society groups that will be taking money from the government to come after opposition leaders, those elders and other people that are taking money to come after opposition leader and draft ridiculous press statements and taking money for it, those media entities that are taking money to demonize Cummings and demonize members of the opposition, just wait. Let Weah win re-election and go stand in front of him about money. The members of society that are conspiring to keep up this failed president, to prop up this failed president, will have themselves to be blamed. Because as I said to you, all sectors of the Liberian economy will be negatively affected by a Weah second term. All sectors. And then when you start going to the embassy, you think American people are stupid. When you win DV in Liberia, then you'll be lucky. Or when, those who are thinking they can go to America, it's going to get harder. Because America said, listen, these people are stupid. We are trying to free them from an error that they made. And then they are continuing to repeat it. So America will make it harder for you to get out of here. You will stay here and deal with it. You will stay here and deal with it. People talk about we are winning second term as though it's going to affect we that are in the opposition. Nonsense. It's going to affect you. You should be more concerned. You should be more concerned about we are second term. If you are not a top-notch politician with alternative places you can go and deals you can cut with the government, because you are the one who must rely on your salary. You will be the real victim if you think you're punishing Alexander Cummings. Alexander Cummings had a brilliant career. Maybe the only thing that will hurt him is because he cares about Liberia, and it will, hurt him to see the people suffer because he's a man of compassion. But beyond that emotional torment of watching your own people suffer, Alex Cummings is not going to suffer. This is not a man that's waiting for the presidency to be economically comfortable. Unlike Weah, who was living in a broken down 2-bedroom house in rehab, who people can see material change in his living condition as a result of winning an election. There's a comfortable man. Alex Cummings is not going to be destitute as a result of the election. You're not going to run into him on the road stopping car. And you think you are punishing the politicians. The CPP collapsed or is collapsing. But our commitment to changing this country must not. Our commitment to changing this country must not be affected by that. The fact that Joseph Boakai and Alexander Cummings cannot come to an agreement on who should run on top of the ticket is no justification for us to go vote for George Weah. And if we do that, the consequences are dire. And we did come to an arrangement. We did come to an arrangement that let these two individuals compete on equal footing. Then Benoni Wilfred Ure and some members of the public started heaping pressure on Cummings to throw away his right to compete for the ticket, which is wrong. Which is wrong. Had we stuck to what we agreed to in the framework document, this thing will be cruising. We will be cruising. But you can swing from one extreme to the other. At least we managed to narrow down the number of serious candidates running for office to just 2 members of the opposition. We can have an agreement. We can have an agreement that if we get to the second round, whoever makes it to the second round will be supported. We can have an agreement. And then everybody go and do their work. But for anybody to say that voting for Weah is an alternative, that is unpatriotic. The civil service will suffer. Ordinary Liberians will suffer dire economic circumstances. These boys will not listen. They will use the results of the election as an objective test of the quality of their leadership and of their legitimacy. And there will be almost nothing you could say. There will be almost nothing we can say or do. I decided to dedicate a show today to the consequences of a Weah victory and to have a strong conversation with you. I want you to take time, those of you who are watching the video for the first time, go in the right-hand corner, there's a bell. As you're watching this video, there's a bell on the right-hand corner that you can hit so that you are notified every time the Dumoy Factor comes on. I want you to also like the video. I want you to go into the comment section and tell me one thing that you think will happen if we are re-elected. I would like to hear from you also. You need to also write in the comment section where you're watching the show from. But I thought to do this 30 minutes version of the show, just emphasizing the dangers of voting for Weah, regardless of what happens in the opposition community. We cannot accept a Weah presidency. I told you, for me, one of the worst outcomes is that Joseph Numa Boakai becomes president. But if Joseph Numa Boakai makes it to the second round, I will encourage people to vote for him. If Alexander Cummings is the only one that's running, you, regardless of your political opinion, you have a duty to vote Cummings. Because all the nonsense y'all be writing about Cummings, y'all know that not true. And y'all know that he stands the best chance of properly running this country and overhauling the rotten system. Y'all know his executive capability. Y'all were there when Cummings ran the CPP. You saw the efficiency with which it was run. You saw how personal ego was put aside for the good of the collective. Y'all know Cummings can do the job. But most of you, because of your connections to Boakai and because of your fright about a outsider coming to bring in reform, you rebel. And most people, you think about your party, you want your party to win. But when we get to that point where Cummings is the only candidate on the ballot because Joe Boakai is not running, nobody can justify the stupidity of voting for Weah or the stupidity of sitting at home. Henry Costa can sit down in America and run his mouth about sitting at home because he has status to live in America. Henry Costa will not go to Majua Market to go and shopping. He will be shopping in one supermarket in America. So I listened to Henry Costa speak in a very unpatriotic manner. In a very unpatriotic and destructive manner, where he said in the unlikely, he said it was unlikely, but it's very likely that Cummings could come second. Very likely that Cummings could come second if he attracts the majority of Bromskin voters, because Bromskin was a top professional, also just like Cummings, a very developmental-minded candidate. And a lot of the similarities are there, and his connection with the Liberty Party is there. If majority of Bromskin voters go the Cummings way, if majority of Prince Johnson voters go the Cummings way because of his connection more open-minded, go the Cummings way. If the defective sedition say it's better to stay with an oppositionist rather than to go back to the former ruling party, Cummings is in the second round. And I knew how evil Henry Pedro Costa is, and how childish and simple-minded he is, and how empty-headed he is, when he said that if Alexander Cummings makes it to the second round, he will sit down home. Then not everybody got thousands of people sending them money because of the platform that they have. And not everyone living in America have access to free money. Most Liberians must wake up in the morning and go to work, and they must do this almost all month in order to get one salary check. That check will be at risk if you sit at home. It is an absolute duty of everybody to ensure that whoever goes into a second round or a one-on-one contest with George Manneh Weah is victorious over Weah. Period. Period. My best option is an Alexander Benedict Cummings presidency come 2023. My worst option is to see a George Manneh Weah presidency. Therefore, if Cummings is not in a striking position, and Bwaka is there, I will go and vote for him reluctantly. I will not say I'm sitting home. That is irresponsible. And Costa know people not stupid. The Liberian people will not listen to some irresponsible talk that doesn't take into consideration their interest. A new president, if a new president is elected, that new president will have a basis to ask for help about fixing the economy. That new president will have the attention of the international community, especially if it is someone like Alexander Benedict Cummings with a lot of American contacts. He will have a basis to step up confidence. You have a basis to promote this country as an investment destination. People who were doubting Weah capacity, people who have a view, a rightful view that Weah is incompetent, who have been keeping the capital out, will now see reason to bring it. So there's a net benefit in changing the leadership in 2017. And that benefit is to you, the ordinary Liberian people. So to sum it up, this is supposed to be 30 minutes because I got a meeting, a very crucial meeting about politics this morning. But let me just sum up. If Weah wins, the economy will suffer, civil servants will suffer, or things prices will go way up. Right now, they're trying to keep it down just so that people vote. There will be a lot of gaps in salary payment. Salary will go back to being irregular. The holes that they're digging to pay for the campaign, they will have to cover it, and they will have no fear of the Liberian people because they will be aware that it's their second term and that they don't want anything from the people. There will be massive looting. Massive looting. That is what a Weah second term will look like. Thanks for being there. Tomorrow we'll do a full version of the show, 1 hour. I'm sorry I started late today, and I'll join you tomorrow with a brand new edition of the Dumoy Factor.